And the contrast on display tonight was so stark. I mean, those lights that are just shooting out from the Lincoln Memorial along the reflecting pool, it's like almost extensions of Joe Biden's arms embracing America. It was a moment where the new president came to town and sort of convened the country in this moment of remembrance, outstretching his arms.
I never get tired of playing that, and we will not get tired of playing that. Okay, live from the green zone that is the nation's capital. You're in the war room, Thursday, the 21st of January, the year of our Lord, 2021. The center of the resistance and the nullification project. This is the war room, now with over 30 million downloads on our podcast. Every platform, John Fredericks, nationwide on radio, on television, on cable, and satellite. Every platform you go to, Gab, Rumble. Go there, share it, enjoy it. We're now breaking it up into smaller pieces, pushing out with our ever-evolving staff. We got to get into today. It's jammed evening show. People, the questions all over the place. I know people are very uncertain about this whole situation with a potential trial. Please remember, a long trial that focuses on the page 3 of the indictment from the impeachment from Nancy Pelosi, which says that the president went around and lied throughout the country for 10 weeks and made all this up. And in fact, CNN's Chiron today said that McCarthy was trying to rewrite history because he had been involved in all these lies. They call them lies about the election. Okay, you say they're lies, we say it's the truth. Let's have a trial in the Senate and day by day by day go through Wisconsin, go through Georgia, go through Arizona, go through Michigan, go through Pennsylvania, go through Nevada. And we'll let the American people decide. If we did that, the Senate would be on trial, not Donald J. Trump. Now, there's all types of rumors coming out. There's breaking news on this all the time, speculation. The latest is that Nancy Pelosi will deliver the article of impeachment maybe by this weekend, and that McConnell is trying to work out a trial that would start in February. I want to turn now to Boris Epshteyn, who's one of the lawyers on the campaign. Boris, put in perspective, what is going on here? I know a lot of MAGA Nation, a lot of the MAGA world is very concerned about this. I say don't be concerned about a trial in the Senate. Trial in the Senate gives President Trump an ability to have a forum to adjudicate this, something he did not get during the post-election period when every court essentially backed off for either Lacey, standing, or whatever. Only in Wisconsin, where you can read the opinion of those 3 jurists which talk about the election fraud, the voter fraud, and the ballot fraud. Mr. Boris Epshteyn, you.
Steve, thank you so much for having me. Great to be with you in the war room. And all the patriots who are your listeners and your viewers. I'm getting so much great feedback on social. Really great to interact with the MAGA brain trust that is the war room. It is obvious that the establishment Republicans and the establishment continue to do all they can to attack President Trump and attack the MAGA movement. While what you want, what any Republican should want, is for Republicans to come together and say, yes, we're in a tough spot, but let's go win the House in 2022. Let's win the Senate. Let's win the presidency back in 2024. For some reason, Mitch McConnell chooses to continue dancing with crying Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, and what used to be Joe Biden.
Look, here's the thing. I want to lay the bid and the ask out. Axios has a story out today, I think from the Edelman society that follows media. Mainstream media is at an all-time low as far as trustworthiness by the American people. Not MAGA world, not the War Room pandemic posse, right? Not the America First crowd. No. By generally the American public at an all-time low, and the reason is they continue to be a propaganda arm of the globalist project, and people can see through this. The bid and the ask, and correct me if I'm wrong, right now it's some kind of Lindsey Graham developed plan and they've just announced a potential lawyer from South Carolina, I think named Mr. Bowers, who's from Tulane Law School, and somehow I think that would be some sort of shorter trial that would focus just on the lack of due process, the constitutionality, everything like that. I think that's one aspect, and that seems to be something that certain members of the Senate may be working on with the president, but that seems to have some at least momentum. In addition, there's I would say a plan B, and that would be to say, hey, you want a full trial? Let's go for a full trial. The full trial will not only defend the president on aspects of the morning of January 6th, but would go back more importantly to the lie that Nancy Pelosi said about what happened after November 3rd that led up to that and the evidence that's out there. And that is what, hey, if I get a vote, take that. Because by the first afternoon when they're in Wisconsin, you're going to understand it's the Republican establishment senators are on trial, and I would dare them to vote to convict Donald J. Trump. President Trump needs this forum to adjudicate this. He needs to get a forum where he can present evidence and he can have his lawyers bring up all the experts and walk through. If it's a lie, hey, show it's a lie. If he presents it, it's a lie, fine. Throw it out. It's a lie. These are all lies, all made up. But the problem is the receipts. The problem is the evidence. And that is overwhelming. And this does not include any machines, anything about Dominion, none of that. This just sticks to the basics of election fraud, ballot fraud, and voter fraud. Mr. Boris Epshteyn.
Steve, that's completely correct. Here's the issue the Democrats have. They pushed through this contrived, pathetic impeachment article, which is absolutely ludicrous. President Trump did not incite the crowd. I was there at the speech. He said march peacefully and patriotically to the Capitol. There was absolutely no inciting done by President Trump. He then put out a video saying stay peaceful, put out 2 tweets saying stay peaceful, and by the Twitter took all that down, and as did Facebook, as if almost they don't want for there to be evidence that the president was urging peacefulness and to stop any violence. Okay? So that's one. 2, this article of impeachment is saying, or any claim of voter fraud is somehow a lie and incitement. That is cardinally against the very basis of America, the First Amendment. And in this instance, as you go around the country, as we've done so many times on this awesome show, Georgia, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, there was election fraud. And you know what? The Democrats know it. They know that they put in a system in Wisconsin which was absolutely against the Wisconsin law and resulted in over 200,000 unlawful ballots cast in Wisconsin alone. They know about the consent decree in Georgia, which resulted in over 400,000 allegedly unlawful ballots. The consent decree, which is unconstitutional because only a state legislature can determine how a particular state carries out its presidential election. The Democrats know it because they did it, and they do not want. You heard Dick Durbin talking about, let's have some sort of quick trial expedited because there's so much to do, right? Joe Biden's got so much he needs done to continue putting America last, as he's been doing in the last 30 hours. But the reason they want an expedited trial is because, as you said, they don't want the receipts out there. They don't want the receipts. And neither do the establishment Republicans, by the way. 80% of the Republican Party, 80% of Republicans believe this election was stolen. Republican elected officials who are part of the establishment don't want to talk about that.
At the end, if you got a chance to put this forward in the forum of the United States Senate on global television, with the type of lawyers you could put up there and the type of things that Peter Navarro, our next guest, it comes up with the Immaculate Deception Report, right? The 3-part report, the mathematicians, some of the best in the world, the witnesses that are actually there in various states, some of the legislators like Brandon Beach, the senator from Georgia, like Burt Jones, the senator from Georgia. It wouldn't be 80%. It would be 98%. And you would have, instead of 30%, remember, folks, this thing's been totally suppressed. We're the ones that got taken down everywhere because we would not give up on it. But I got to tell you, this has been suppressed everywhere. The NBC poll, 30% of independents think it was stolen and illegal. The CNN poll, I think, has got 33% of independents. This is why Biden has a crisis right now of no political capital. Part of the reason he has no political capital is the simple fact, no matter how much the mainstream media pushes, no matter how much the lights on the reflecting pool look like his arms, no matter how much it's the greatest speech since Lincoln's first inaugural address, all this nonsense, hyperbole, and just pure crap put out by the mainstream media that's imploding because the American people are tired of it. They know they're getting played, that no audience shows up. That's why, Boris, it is to me essential that we get a trial. And forget if any MAGA world's out there afraid he's going to be convicted. After he made that presentation, it would only be the three or four haters: Sass, Romney, Murkowski would be voting against him. Right? It'd be the pure haters. No chance he could get convicted. That's why he needs this forum, and he should press, and people around him should press for the forum that's going to allow him to present how Joe Biden did this and why Joe Biden's illegitimate. And that's why I said you're going to have a constitutional crisis, because now you basically have gone through the electoral college process, and you've got a guy who's questionable. The American people have great common sense. They're sitting there going, it just doesn't feel right. Mr. Boris Epshteyn.
Well, if you got 80 million votes, then how come your inauguration looked like a barely attended high school football game or a Division III college football game? That's what it looked like. Imagine yourself somewhere in Iowa or Indiana, and it's a high school, relatively small, mid-sized high school. They've got a Friday night football game or a Saturday afternoon football game. That's the crowd you had at this inauguration yesterday. You're telling me 80 million folks, 80 million Americans voted for this guy? And this is the kind of enthusiasm? And okay, fine. You want to talk about, there's the DC is locked down and maybe it was tough to get here. Fine. Where was the show of support around the country? The only demonstrations were the looting and the rioting in Portland and in Seattle. That's all I saw. You didn't see any outpouring of excitement. You had more people in Palm Beach celebrating President Trump and at Joint Base Andrews sending President Trump off than you had at that pathetic
Boris, real quickly, we've got about a minute. Correct me if I'm wrong. Doesn't the downloads or the views on President Trump landing in Palm Beach and taking off had 3.5 million of his taking off from Andrews and landing in Palm Beach? That crowd, I think 3.5 million downloads. And Biden's up on the White House site had 154,000. If you could show me this overwhelming interest on TV or online, maybe I could start to believe, but it's not. Nobody cares. It's total crickets.
The receipts are not there. The American people are not there for Joe Biden. The American people are there for President Trump. And that is why we have to continue the MAGA movement, to stay strong, to fight hard, color within the lines, stay peaceful. But we have to keep our back up and not bend to the mainstream, to the Democrats and their cohorts, their comrades in big tech.
Okay, give us your coordinates on social media, Boris. Everybody in the audience wants to talk to you today or hear what you got to say.
You got it. Instagram, Boris_Epshteyn. I posted a ton of great content yesterday from that send-off of President Trump, including the video of My Way playing as the plane took off into the horizon. Instagram, Boris_EPSHTEYN. Twitter, @BorisEP. Instagram, Boris_Epshteyn. Twitter, @BorisEP. Stay strong. God bless.
Fight on, Boris. Thank you very much, Boris Epshteyn. We need a trial in the Senate for President Trump to present the receipts. Okay, Peter Navarro next. We're going to go through these EOs. We're going to talk about what's happening at the border. We're going to go live, I think, hopefully to Tijuana, what's going on the border at the bottom of the hour. Be back in a moment. War and pandemic.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Okay, at the bottom of the hour, we're going to go to Tijuana, in San Diego near Goat Canyon. Ben Bergquam from Real America's Voice is going to be there. We're going to do a live report of what's happening at the border. I want to bring in now Dr. Peter Navarro, the assistant to the president. And the way the hierarchy works, assistant to the president is the closest senior executives in the West Wing. There's only 12. There's only a dozen assistants to the president. These are the National Security Advisor, the head of NEC. Dr. Navarro was the key member of the 2016 campaign. He was really the head of the America First economic policies and was trade and manufacturing assistant to the president. He is a feared individual in Beijing because he's the mechanic in back of President Trump's architecture of the trade deals and the confrontation with the Chinese Communist Party. Dr. Navarro, you've had a chance, and a hat tip to what they did right. I think the Biden guys very much in the transition were working on these executive orders to get them. An executive order, you've got to get it through the Justice Department. It basically has a legal opinion from what's called OLC. I know Dr. Navarro, a lot of his got hung up there, but it's a quite difficult process. Just don't think people put stuff in front of you sign. They've launched, I think, 17. There's more today. Dr. Navarro, I want you to go through it and walk our audience through, because this is very important about how we look. Where you agree with stuff, we agree with it, but how you fight back on what you don't agree with. Remember, we're an advocacy system. And I got to tell you, they are trying to unwind everything the Trump administration did, basically, that was not statutory, which is essentially the tax cut and a few other things. They are going to gut the Trump administration. That's what attempt to. And by the way, that's what we try to do. We try to gut the Obama administration. So it's, give as good as you get. Where do you think they stand, Dr. Navarro? Walk us through this.
So first of all, what pisses me off about what you just said is, while they were running these Biden executive orders through OLC at the Department of Justice, before we left, we couldn't get our friggin' orders through. I left about 7 of them sitting there because OLC wouldn't move. Now I know why
Dr. Navarro, we have a rule.
So
hold it. We have a rule in the war room: no whining. Okay, no whining. Hey, they had more stroke. Democrats have more stroke over the Justice Department. I'm very shocked. Go ahead.
That's my point. That's my point. And by the way, this is an homage to you, there, shipmate. I don't know if you saw any of these when you were out in the South China Sea, but we always have to remind ourselves that the CCP is the existential threat. Let me walk you through these executive orders, because in a lot of ways, there's no there on the virus, and with respect to the border issues, it's an open border nightmare. So let me start with the virus stuff. I mean, basically, first one is like right out of Elizabeth Warren's campaign platform. It's a plan. Okay, big deal. Second thing is they appoint somebody to be a coordinator in the White House, which is basically what people like me and Adam Bowler were already doing when we were there. So there's really nothing new there. You've got a mask mandate, right? So everybody on federal property is going to be doing that. And then they make a big deal, Steve, out of using the Defense Production Act. We used it over 100 times. It's going to be really interesting to see what they actually think they can do with the DPA that we didn't or couldn't do. The one thing I would agree with them on, they make a point of saying that, yeah, we still have shortfalls in production for things like nitrile gloves and masks and things like that. But we, in the Trump administration, set in motion many actions that will bear fruit down the road. But these things take time to set up factories and production. We did it in Trump time. Now, the other thing they did is they put a moratorium on any further deregulatory as we're working through on Trump time. And then when we shift over to the border, here's the economics of this. What I love about this show, Steve, is that we actually can get down into the actual economics. Secure borders under Donald Trump was essentially a way of boosting wages and employment opportunities, primarily for urban minorities, blacks and Hispanics, because the preponderance of pressure that comes from an open border and having mass migration into our cities is on the jobs that people with lower education levels are pursuing. So what Joe Biden is doing, which is ironic because it's supposed to be the Democrat Party and the party of the working class and minorities, is he's basically setting in motion a process whereby blacks and Hispanics are going to be harmed significantly. And there was a reason why, as Steve Cortez loves to tell us, why the people on the border, the Hispanics on the border, voted overwhelmingly for Trump, why we outperformed with African Americans in this election, because these folks They get it. They see what's coming over the border. And by the way, the other one they did was like start letting Libyans and others coming back in here. And if we haven't learned a lesson about how to control terrorism from what's been going on, I don't know what we've learned up to this point. So far for me, pretty much no good. The virus EOs aren't really going to materially do anything more than the Trump administration was doing. And the
hang over a second. Forget the immigration. I got to put a pin in. By the way, I want to go back to what Scott Adams said. Scott Adams has been saying, don't buy the sale and don't normalize this administration. We are the forefront of we will not normalize this administration because, yes, we 100% agree this is illegitimate. The evidence backs it up. We're prepared to show anybody the evidence. We're like Fresno State. We'll go anywhere, anytime, play anybody, and show it. Okay? Number one. However, you have to deal with also reality, and they are deconstructing what we did in the Trump administration hourly as they go through these executive orders. It's kind of the way the system's structured. Not a conspiracy, but you have to understand the way the game is played. Okay? And they're taking apart both everything he did for safety and security around radical jihad. They're taking apart everything about border security and our sovereignty. But what I find most intriguing, Peter, and if you could respond to it, the media is in like, oh my gosh, he's doing there's such a well thought through COVID-19 plan. You know, he's stepped into a mess, stepped into a crisis, and he's got this really well thought through plan on everything from vaccine manufacturing to distribution, to therapeutics, to, wearing masks, to everything. Walk us through what is really, he's going to use defense production like nobody's ever heard of that. Tell me what exactly, in about 3 sentences, what is his plan and how does it really differ from what Donald J. Trump and you were doing?
His plan is basically to keep doing exactly what we were doing and somehow put a Biden stamp on it with the hope that over time, if it starts getting better, he can claim that he made it get better. But Steve, look, this is the most serious crisis domestically we've ever faced. And what we have in place now is a pretty good start on bringing our supply chains home for our personal protective equipment. Donald Trump did a beautiful job of getting a vaccine in a third of the time. We're working through some supply chain issues. As I told you yesterday, a big part of that is companies like Pfizer overextending their supply chain, selling the vaccines to other countries instead of focusing here on America. But I look at these orders. That's like he writes an executive order to create a policy coordinator for COVID-19. I mean, come on. We had tons of people working there. It was me, it was Bowler, it was Burks, it was Scott Atlas before he left. I mean, we had the team, and then over at HHS we had Admiral Polofchek, Paul Mango. I mean, look, we've left him an infrastructure to deliver the goods, and if he wants to paper that with some fantasy executive orders, so be it. But I don't want to hear from CNN or MSNBC that they're doing something that we didn't do, because there's no receipts here, Steve.
We'll come back to you if we see something different. We're going to call it straight, call balls and strike. Okay, last thing. You saw him today. Gets a little snippy with these reporters, right? When I think they're asking pretty basic questions. It gets a little snippy. I challenge, Biden should stand up there. They all mocked him. I'd like to see him go into the press room and have as much command of the material as Trump had back in March and April and May. Trump, I thought, dominated these press conferences for a while. I'd like to see Biden have the command of the facts and then to be able to take incoming from a hostile press and be able to answer it. That would prove to me that Joe didn't have the beginning of sundowners, didn't have the beginning of dementia. When is Joe Biden going to step up there? He's got this great plan. It's so much different than Trump. It's a crisis. We're solving the crisis. I'm stepping into a crisis. Got Time Magazine's got the Oval Office all trash, and Joe Biden's there to clean it up, and all these cartoons. I challenge Joe Biden to go down to the Brady briefing room, have as command of the facts that Donald Trump have, and then take incoming from a hostile press. Let him ask questions. But Trump took them all. In fact, Trump would sit there and call the haters first. Peter, how do you think, you were there, you got about a minute, how do you think Biden would stand up to that?
You're asking like Dwayne Haskins to be Tom Brady, right? I mean, it's not in Joe's wheelhouse. He has no command of the facts. But I think it's going to be actually a short honeymoon with Joe Biden because the economy is unraveling as we speak. The job numbers are going to deteriorate. We know that small businesses at an accelerating rate are going to be going bankrupt. There's no stimulus trillions that's going to paper that over the virus. What he's doing with things like today, that's not going to material move the football up the field. And so they'll some of them will start asking
and people, no, they will never ask the tough questions. Don't wait on that. They know America's waking up to the fact that
they're shutting out.
Yeah, the con is in. Okay, Peter.
Shutting out conservative journalism in the briefing room.
Okay,
by the way.
well, they got to ask. Hey, I don't consider Fox. I don't consider Fox conservative. Fox are going to ask terrible questions. Okay, real quickly, how do people get to Navarro Reports? How do they get to you? What are your coordinates? You got about 10, 15 seconds.
Real P. Navarro, and there's going to be a new report coming out early next week on immigration that I did in the White House. That we kind of put on the back burner because of the virus, but it's going to be timely given what is
immigration bill. Okay, Dr. Navarro, thank you very much. We got to bounce to Tijuana.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Okay, welcome back. We're going to go to Ben Bergquam in a second at the border. By the way, the Republican Party, I think, is absolutely shameful in what they're doing in these confirmation hearings. Remember, here's the scam of the confirmation. They got the most boring people in the world. They got Tony Blinken. And look, I have been on record saying Blinken will never be confirmed because of his involvement with the Bidens, his involvement on the whole compromise of the Bidens with the CCP. He was not directly involved, but tangentially involved. He got all this stuff about the University of Pennsylvania, how the money got raised there. None of these questions. Go back and look at the transcripts. We're going to be putting them up. All softball questions, a couple of questions on CCP. Biden does not mention the Chinese Communist Party as a threat to the United States of America in his entire inaugural address. Says the existential threat is white supremacists, white nationalists, domestic terrorists. That's the existential threat to the country, biggest threat to the America faces. That's what Biden says. Doesn't mention the greatest existential threat we've ever faced, which is the Chinese Communist Party and their involvement in the globalization project and also their massive infiltration here into the United States of America, which is on the record and said by the former Attorney General, Secretary of State, all of it. And we now have the direct proof that the Wuhan lab is run by the PLA, as we've said, is part of a biological weapons program, and the virus either leaked out from there or was launched from there. I happen to think it was leaked out there inadvertently. And Biden doesn't mention it. We do have breaking. The breaking news is now a very reliable source saying that it could be that the trial looks like it's going to be, I want to make sure I got this right. The trial looks like it's going to start Sunday the 14th. Sunday the 14th. There's rumors coming out of the Senate that Mitch McConnell and Chuck Schumer have reached a deal, and that Nancy Pelosi will deliver the article of impeachment, the instrument, and that the trial will start, looks like the trial will start Sunday the 14th, or I guess Monday the 15th of February. And there's word that there'll be a 6-day trial, but other people say it'll take longer. And this is all dependent upon what the real focus is and whether we have this Lindsey Graham alternative. I think Butch Bowers is a lawyer they're talking about that's been tweeted out a lot today from South Carolina and Tulane University Law School, who might be the lead counsel here. Still very much up in the air. Not a lot of word out of Mar-a-Lago about what the strategy is. But now you're starting to see some formation that it looks like in mid-February, we will have President Trump's second impeachment trial. This will be very unique in American history because it will be with a president who has actually left office. Remember, what they would find him and try to convict him of would be the incitement of a violent insurrection, which he has to defend himself on that. If found guilty, I think they can strip him of his Secret Service, they can strip him of his presidential library, strip him of his pension, strip him of his security clearance so he can't really discuss anything with foreign leaders. And then immediately afterwards, that's a 2/3 vote. Then immediately afterwards, if they find him guilty, have a by majority vote in the House and the Senate to basically say he cannot run again for federal office. That means he could not run for re-election in 2024. Or if you're D.C. Drano, he couldn't run for Congress and be the Speaker of the House with a sweeping victory in 2022. They would take all that away. That's what the Democrats want. What the Democrats want is to is to make sure that Trump cannot run for public office again. What the establishment Republicans want to do is purge him from the entire political process. What they want to do is keep you, this powerful audience of war and pandemic, the deplorables, the MAGA movement, the America First guys, men and women. They want to keep your votes, keep your money, keep your muscle, keep your ability to go door to door and support candidates. They just don't want you to have a voice in the room. And they really want to take away the leader of the movement, which is Donald J. Trump. So this is all going to play out. We have been very strong advocates of the following, and we always will be. One thing we're noticing in the polls, the more people get information, the more people see the facts. This is the part of the Great Awakening, both on the globalization project, not a conspiracy, how it works as a system. The more they understand it, the less they want to be a part of it. In addition, the same thing about election fraud and about the stealing of the election. The more people see facts, which have been suppressed, the more they're going, wow, I didn't know that. I didn't hear that. That's amazing. Test it on your friends. Get some of the details we're getting. Take the Navarro reports, all 3 volumes, and say, hey, look, you guys should take a look at this. Read this and tell me what you think afterwards. I guarantee you, everyone, if they really read it, will come back and go, wow, I didn't know this. I didn't see this on CNN. All I saw on CNN was a big lie. Today, they're hammering McCarthy. McCarthy's supporting a big lie. Okay, let's go in the Senate and spend 21 days, and we'll see who's lying. We'll see who's lying. And then let Twitter and all these guys, YouTube, let them all then answer to the lawyers when they say, hey, you pulled these guys down. You tried to destroy their businesses. You said it was all a lie. Nobody can talk about it. It's the words that cannot be spoken. Yet he went into the Senate, and guess what? He proved his case. I dare a Republican senator to vote against Donald J. Trump after you've seen the facts and you've had your nose rubbed in the facts on global television. You have to sit there like a little schoolboy, and Donald Trump's team is going to present the facts in Wisconsin and in Georgia and in Arizona and in Nevada and in Michigan and in Pennsylvania. And I dare you to vote him guilty. Dare you. You will be signing politically your political death warrant. You will not be reelected. If they can't recall you, you will be primaried. You will be finished. Just ask Liz Cheney. Okay. I want to turn to a guy that was out there in the field and did amazing reporting from Arizona to Georgia. Just incredible. Ben Bergquam from Real America's Voice. Ben, today we join you. We're trying to get people ahead here on the signal, not the noise. You're down on the border, and we're trying to get people ahead of this. There's a brewing a controversy on the border, and it's because Biden has taken away all the safeguards that President Trump put in. And remember, this is all inextricably linked. Why did Donald J. Trump do such an amazing job among Hispanics? Why did he do such an incredible job in those counties that run up the Rio Grande Valley in Texas? Why did he do such a great job in Arizona? Why did he do such a great job in certain areas of California? Because Hispanic American citizens understand they need border security, and they need America First policies about illegal aliens because it floods the labor pool and drives their wages down and drives their employment down. The way they have a better life is to restrict the labor pool. The reason the Chamber of Commerce and Wall Street and the Wall Street Journal and all the globalists want more labor is to keep you people as serfs. It's very simple. Math is simple. I went to Harvard Business School. I can do the math. They want open borders in the Cato Institute and the Kochs. They want unlimited labor. They don't care that the Hispanic citizens of this country and African-American working class people have to compete with illegal foreign labor. They don't care. And I do not blame anybody coming from Central America trying to get in the United States. I actually, in the White House, says, hey, we should have the 7 nations meet in McAllen, Texas. We got to work out a plan. It's a biblical problem in Central America. Okay? And I are in Central America, we do the exact same thing. If I can get to El Norte, if I can get across with my family, I'm going across. And I'll take the consequences. And it looks like under Democrats, there are not many consequences. So why wouldn't I do that? These people are logical. Remember, people are rational. They're not irrational. If you set up incentives, they're going to take the incentives. These people are rational. So, Ben, I want to go to you. Tell us what's happening. You're down at Goat Canyon in San Diego. Walk us through what is Goat Canyon? What is that in back of you? What is happening?
Thanks, Steve. So right behind me, you can see this is a tangible example of what President Trump did as the president, the commander-in-chief. Behind me is a place called Goat Canyon where illegal aliens used to rush every single night, come through here. Now, what is directly behind me, before you get to the double-layer wall that is now built along the hillside here, in between, where you can see Tijuana right over here, in between us is a cesspool. This is literally sewage that comes in from Mexico. The reason that I can't get down to a place called Friendship Park right now is because the amount of sewage that is run in there. They've closed the park down partially because of COVID, but partially because of the sewage runoff. The reason why so many Hispanics along the border voted for President Trump, you asked the question, is because President Trump put them first. Many of the people that have come here from Central America and South America and Mexico were escaping what is right over that border, cartel violence and the insecurity of living in a third world country. They came here for the American dream. And now you have somebody, Joe Biden, who is trying to take that dream away from them. Many of them see that. You have right now, just to give the audience, America, that what the mainstream media will not tell you, right now, on top of new caravans that are coming up from Honduras and Guatemala, there's one right now stuck in Guatemala, about 6,000 strong. What I'm hearing from my contacts down there is there's another one that's building because they're stuck, that they're saying they're going to get 100,000 people to caravan up. But even regardless of that, right now in Tijuana, there are 8,000 to 10,000 people that have been waiting. And along the entire border, there's around 100,000 illegal aliens that are waiting with American leftist organization, Pueblo Sin Frontera, El Otro Lado, and these leftist organizations, along with the ACLU, that are telling them, just bide your time. I just heard today, I was speaking to a Border Patrol agent off the record. He said he didn't want to be on the record, but I just heard from him today. They have already got word that the Remain in Mexico policy is being rescinded as we speak. And what that means to America is all of those people that have been forced to go back into Mexico, that were lying, that were saying they were coming over here for asylum, are going to start flooding back across this border again. And we're going to have the exact same problem we had 2 years ago under Obama's policies that President Trump finally was able to get rid of, where he forced people that claim to be asylum seekers to remain in Mexico. That, in and of itself, almost destroyed the illegal crossing. What Biden is doing, he's going to rescind that. And talking about protecting illegal aliens in America, he says 11 million, it's closer to 30 million. If they do that, if they give mass amnesty, this country's sovereignty is gone. Every single American, Democrat or Republican, needs to stand up. You've got to call your senators and your House members, especially the Democrats, and say, I do not want my jobs lost. Like you just said, I heard you talking to Dr. Navarro. These are low-skilled jobs. Everybody right now who is unemployed and you're in a low-skilled labor force, your job is at risk from the people that want to come over here. And that's the only reason they want to come, besides the violence that they're escaping from. And you're absolutely right, it's a crisis, needs to be dealt with down there, but we can't fix it by letting every single person through.
There has to be some sort of agreement. We have to, and by the way, Central America definitely needs help. There's no doubt about that. But a solution can't be put on the shoulders of working class Hispanic American citizens in these border towns. You know, I was part of a group that built this border wall in El Paso and certain parts of the Rio Grande Valley, where it's actually sending Michael Yan, our combat correspondent, is going to go down to El Paso to the wall.
Steve,
yeah, go ahead.
If I can, just let me show this. We've actually got trucks still coming up that are building that fence as we speak. Got Border Patrol agents. That is part of the fence that is going to be going up. They are replacing the weak fence that was built under Bush with a double layer fence 30 feet high. You know exactly what we're talking about, Steve. That is all going along here to prevent that. Now, what you can rest assured, though, as soon as Joe Biden and the left have their way, not only are they going to stop building, but I foresee them saying, tear down that wall. This is how serious this is to everybody that lives in this country.
Ben, actually, they signed an executive order to stop it. That must be the final piece that they've still got the cash from the Defense Department. Ben, you've got about a minute. Give us a wrap up of how do you see this border crisis playing out?
They're rescinding the Remain in Mexico. We're going to be flooded by illegal aliens. They're going to try to push for mass amnesty, and that's the bottom line. Well, just real quick though, too, right behind me, the cesspool that you see, as they're talking about the environment and shutting down the Keystone XL pipeline, where America has become energy independent. By shutting that down, they're going to make us energy dependent on third world countries again, partially from Mexico. The same country that lets their sewage run into America, we're going to have to start buying our energy back from. These people are hypocrites and they are liars, but it's up to the American people. We have to show this. The media will not show this. That's why I'm down here. That's why Real America's Voice is going to continue to be here. That's why we're with you, Steve, and everybody to tell you the truth. Stay tuned for much more. We're going to keep bringing it to you, but it's up to the American people to demand this stop.
Thank you. We have to have the back of working class Hispanic people that have stood up and said, hey, we can't compete with a flood of labor. It's not fair. We're going to return in a minute with Michael Walsh, the author of Last Stands on War and Pandemic.
And you are over, 'cause we're taking down the CCP. Spread the word all through Hong Kong. We will fight till they're all gone. We will...
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Okay, great reporting from Ben Bergquam down on the border. Remember, we had the head of CIS, Center for Immigration Studies. He actually said he thought the range was 11 to 15, not 20 to 30. But we're going to find all of that out. And this is also, remember, we are not. You should not demonize these people coming up from Central America. This is a tragedy of biblical proportions. Our heart goes out to them, but there's a way you have to rationally do this, and you can't put the burden, which the burden's always been put on working class African Americans and working class Hispanics, about the pressure of these unlimited labor pools. Is what the Chamber of Commerce wants, Wall Street wants. They all want that. What do they want? They want that because they have higher operating margins. Higher operating margins lead to higher stock prices. Higher stock prices lead to bigger bonuses and more wealth for the CEOs. Okay? It's not and that's not a bad thing of itself, but you can't do it on the back of working class folks. Also, do we have Michael Walsh or do we drop Michael Walsh? We have Michael Walsh. We're going to go to Michael Walsh in a second. One last thing. Yesterday, the Chinese Communist Party, the government in Beijing, sanctioned about 24 Americans, including Mike Pompeo, Matt Pottinger from the National Security Council, Peter Navarro, the assistant to the president, and yours truly, Stephen K. Bannon, the original worker bees on President Trump's architecture of his great confrontation with the Chinese Communist Party. We have been individually and personally sanctioned. I'll talk more about that tomorrow. Also, we're going to have Maura Monahan on. Michael Pack, one of the great filmmakers of the conservative movement, a terrific guy, an anti-communist, took over the Voice of America to finally get to clean up the Voice of America, which was a cesspool of pro-CCP, anti-Chinese people, pro-CCP, to clean out that rat's nest, terminated by the Biden administration in the first couple of hours of the administration. We'll have more on that tomorrow. This is all inextricable. Not one word in his inaugural address about the Chinese Communist Party. Okay, now, back in December before Christmas, we brought on an old colleague of mine from the Breitbart days, turned into an amazing author, Michael Walsh. The book is Last Stands, Why Men Fight When All Is Lost. It's an incredible story of kind of courage, and we're very big now. The courage is contagious. This is a time, this book, you can't put it down. I want to bring back Michael Walsh. I want to reset, because Michael, we had you on the first time, you ran out of books. The War Room Pandemic Posse are book readers, and they're serious book readers. They love great books. So tell us about the book and tell us about how people can get it.
Yeah, well, we broke Amazon on day one, Steve, thanks to you and a lot of other friends on the conservative side. But there's plenty of books in the pipeline now, so they're widely available, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, et cetera. So thank you for that. But, we lucked out on the timing for this book. The idea that men fight to the end for causes they believe in and for their brothers in arms is suddenly very, very relevant to what we're going through here in the United States right now. And I think through these lessons that I teach from Thermopylae right up to the Chosin Reservoir, we can learn a lot and rediscover the value of traditional masculinity, because there's not a lot of it on the other side, but we need all we can get on our side.
Talk to us about what are the lessons. Give us the 2 or 3 lessons after studying all these heroic last stands of many different cultures and obviously over the long stretch of history. What are the 1 or 2 lessons that you take away?
Well, I would say the principal one, Steve, is that you go to war for various reasons, international politics, geopolitics, long-term strategy, but the men in the trenches are fighting them for themselves and for each other. They're not even fighting them for God, country, honor, duty, etc. in the extremists, or even for their wives and children at home. They're fighting to survive if they can, but to take as many of the other sons of bitches as they can with them if they have to go down. But most of all, they fight for the guy next to him. From the Greek phalanx to the Roman legions, you protected the man to your right. And we need in the conservative movement now to really be forming into one of those turtles, as the Romans used to call them, shields up, protected, and fighting for each other to get through this going to be a tough patch, as you're just outlining right now.
You say that why men fight when all is lost. Are they conscious of the fact that in the last stand it's lost and they're fighting for something else other than what they originally came into the conflict for?
I think some of them, yeah. I think the Greeks at Thermopylae were pretty clear they weren't going to get out of that alive. I think Custer's men, on the other hand, were totally surprised by what happened to them, and they just had to go down in what amounted to a rout. One of my favorite chapters in the book is about Ulysses S. Grant at Shiloh, when the Union Army was whooped on day one. Grant got there late. Sherman ignored intelligence. They were pushed back to the Tennessee River. It looked like it was over for the Union at that point. And Grant was asked, are you going to retreat? And he said, no, I propose to whip them tomorrow. And that's what he did. He regrouped and he whipped them tomorrow. So we're kind of like Grant at Shiloh right now. We took a beating, but a narrow beating. And now it's time for us to fix bayonets, turn around, and send the Confederates packing.
Whip him to Mars, he said, with his back to the river. I want to, Michael, how do people get your coordinates? How do they get to, what's the easiest and best way to get the book?
The easiest, best way is go on Amazon, go on Barnes & Noble, go on the Macmillan site. They have a whole series of buttons. You can find it all over the place. And the easiest way to find me is on Facebook. Steve, as you know, I was an early bannee from Twitter back in the summer, and they've never let me back on that platform. But Facebook is still cooking. So look for the book and my name on Facebook and get directly in touch with me. It would be great to hear from all the people that are making this book such a big hit.
So everybody in the posse, this is a book, the timing couldn't be more perfect. It shows you the concept that courage is contagious and that courage is the most important of all virtues, because you read this book, you'll see that all the other virtues rest upon individuals' courage, and their own courage is what spreads to groups, and then that courage spreads to community. And that's what we need right now. We need courage. We need courage. We need that good old grit and determination that this book is full of. Last Stands by Michael Walsh, Why Men Fight When All is Lost. Go to Amazon today and get it. Particularly if you have a young man in your life, it's a perfect book. Any kid over 11, 12 years old should be able to get through this and really be inspired. Michael, thank you very much. Honored to have you on. Glad you're back, and we can start talking about this book again.
Hey, thank you, Steve. Much appreciated.
Okay, tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, we're going to have Ken Paxton on the morning show, the terrific Attorney General in the state of Texas. He put out a pretty brutal press release yesterday. We want to get the back of that. Also, Maura Monahan's going to talk to us about what's going on at Voice of America. We're going to start to drill down on the Chinese Communist Party, why they're the biggest existential threat, into your personal life, your children's personal life, and your grandchildren's personal lives. Tomorrow at 10 o'clock, join us for War Room Pandemic.